Well, hello there. I'm here with the start of a new series creating devlogs on my new indie first-person horror game project called The Phantom Void that I'm going to be developing in Godot. Now, I don't want to avoid spoilers, but I'll give you some of the context. So basically, you're in a sci-fi world as part of a crew on an expedition to research the space void known as the Phantom Void. However, after the oxygen tank ends up exploding on board, knocking you unconscious, you awaken to all your crew members dead from the alien entities your team held captive for research. Now, the game is going to be heavily inspired by the gameplay elements and art styles of games like Roblox Doors and Pressure, for likely obvious reasons. But if you enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button to keep up to date with the game's progress, and it'll help me out a ton too. I don't have much footage of very early development, but I'll give you the rundown on what I made. I started creating some of the more foundational systems that would be very important for developing the game. Obviously, I created the character controller with some nice acceleration, friction, air movement, and camera twinning with head bobbing and tilting to make it feel really nice to play. I also made an inventory system very similar to Doors, where you have 6 max slots and the slots appear and disappear if you have items in them. Durability was added too, and all the items can be stored in resources, so it's extremely easy to add and save new items. These naming conventions definitely did not come from a certain block game. Of course not. Anyway, this naturally came along with an item system for the items the player holds in their hand. Right now, the only item with this function is the flashlight, but I made it really easy to add new items in the future. The way I got these cool rings on the spotlight emitted by the flashlight was by using this projector property, where I could use a texture to simulate shadows on the light. Of course, there also needed to be a way to pick up items, so I created some components to use for composition, which were the interaction and collectible components. The interaction component is just for general interactions, but the collectible component just inherits the interaction component and specifically is used for giving an item on interaction. It took so long to figure out how to get this item highlight to work, only to figure out that I had to just change this little seemingly insignificant value by 1. That was 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. Another funny bug was this crouching one, where the camera wasn't being moved, so your head kind of just clipped straight through the ceiling of crawl spaces. Luckily, it didn't take as long to fix. Since the crew was studying void in space, I played around with the sky shader to make it so half the screen is filled with stars and half is completely empty, which I think really helps with the atmosphere of the game. And finally, another little decorative thing I added was the ability to make lights flicker. It's pretty cool how it works. It samples from a noise texture and uses that value to determine the light's energy. This makes it really customizable, and it can be enabled just by adding it to a group. And with all this stuff added, here is what I've got so far altogether. And remember, if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing so you can keep up with any future devlogs on the game, and would help to start building a community around the game. And so I'll see you in the next video.